Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move through life with a quiet power, while others feel like they're drifting, waiting, begging for change? The difference isn't luck. It isn't fate. It's a secret that's hidden in plain sight. Something sacred, something holy, disguised as ordinary. It's your imagination. Not the kind of imagination they talk about in childhood stories. Not daydreams or fantasy worlds. This is the kind of imagination that creates reality, subtle but absolute. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask for proof. It simply creates through you. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. Suddenly the gap between who you are and who you long to be isn't a wall, it's a door, and that door opens inward. The world has taught you to seek outside of yourself, to believe that power comes from effort, approval, or chance. But all along, the real power has been within, not metaphorically, literally. Your imagination is not a passive tool. It is the living presence of God within you. Ignore it, and you drift. Use it, and you command. You are not here to worship a distant force. You are here to become aware of what you already are. Ask most people to describe God, and they'll point upward, outward, or to a book, a statue, a sky. The world has projected its deepest power onto something distant and separate, an invisible judge, a cosmic parent, a divine being hidden behind the stars. But the real God has no image, no face carved in stone. The real God is closer than breath, hiding in plain sight, speaking in silence, moving in every thought you dare to believe. And that God, the only God that creates, is your imagination. You may resist that idea at first. It sounds too simple, too internal, too human. But that's the point. The greatest truths are never hidden behind ceremony or hierarchy. They're buried inside you. And your imagination is the living evidence. It creates not with thunder or fire, but with quiet certainty. It doesn't judge whether a thought is good or bad. It simply brings it to life. It gives form to your assumptions, your inner speech, your silent beliefs. And it never stops creating, because it is the ceaseless, invisible engine of reality. That engine is divine. When Scripture says, "I am the Lord, and there is no other," it is not speaking of a distant deity in the clouds. It is pointing inward. "Be still and know that I am God" means to silence the noise of the outer world and recognize the Creator within. That Creator doesn't live in temples built by hands. It lives in the stillness of your awareness, in the pictures you hold, in the feelings you persist in. Your imagination is not a mental escape. It is the true sanctuary, the Holy of Holies. Ignore it, and you walk in circles. Know it, and you walk in light. And this imagination, this inner power, will create whatever you accept as true, whether it serves you or not. That is its perfection and its mercy. It does not need worship. It needs recognition. When you think of yourself as unworthy, your imagination becomes the God that proves it. When you feel empowered, your imagination becomes the God that confirms it. It is impartial. It mirrors your self-conception, not your desires. It brings to life what you embody, not what you wish for. That is why it is sacred. It cannot be fooled. So stop chasing a God in the sky. Stop waiting for signs in the clouds or angels at your door. You've already been given the divine gift, your imagination, and it is waiting for instruction. To use it is to awaken. To deny it is to suffer. You do not need to find God. You need to remember. The divine has no image but your own. Your thoughts, your visions, your inner states. These are the brushstrokes of creation. And once you know this, you are no longer a servant to life. You are its sculptor. You were told the power was outside. You were told to seek it in places, in people, in things. But if imagination is God, and it is, then the true temple was never built by hands. It was built in you. The presence you've been taught to worship is not distant. It is thinking through you, dreaming through you, creating through every picture, emotion, and assumption you hold within. And yet, for most, this Creator has been forgotten, not because it is absent, but because it is too close to see. Everything you experience begins in the unseen. The moment you believe something to be true, whether consciously or not, your imagination begins constructing the bridge of events to support it. Not through effort, not through luck, through law. Your imagination does not need to be understood by others. It does not need validation. It only needs your awareness and direction. When you walk through life unaware of this, you become a passenger. But when you awaken to it, you become the author. This is not metaphor. It is structure. Reality bends around belief, not the belief you speak, but the belief you live in, the one etched into the background of your self-image. Most people pray for change while maintaining the same mental habits that created their current condition. They cry out for transformation while nurturing the very assumptions that guarantee repetition. You cannot plant seeds of fear and expect flowers of peace. Imagination is exact. It reflects not your desires but your assumptions. It hears what you whisper to yourself in silence. Now you must ask, what have I been imagining? What story do I rehearse each day in the privacy of my mind? Because that story is becoming flesh. The world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. And until you return to the forgotten creator within, your own wonderful human imagination, you will remain a servant to your own unconscious designs. But once you remember, truly remember, you no longer wait for change. You command it, because you are not here to worship the Creator. You are here to realize you are it. Once you remember that your imagination is the Creator, a new kind of responsibility begins. Life is no longer random, no longer ruled by external forces. You begin to notice the pattern, how every assumption you've held about yourself, others, and the world has quietly shaped the events of your life. The outer world becomes a mirror, not of effort, not of words, but of inner states, and this mirror doesn't lie. It reflects back whatever you dare to claim as true, not later, not someday, but now. This is where most people hesitate. They want change, but they don't want to release the identity they've built around struggle, doubt, or limitation. They try to change circumstances without changing themselves. But the mirror cannot show you a new image until you move your face. Assumption is the movement. It is the inner acceptance of a new state as your current reality, not your future hope, your present truth. And as soon as you persist in that assumption, your imagination, the God within, begins to shape the world accordingly. You may not see results instantly, but imagination doesn't fail. It works faithfully, whether or not you remember planting the seed. What you assume as real, even for a moment, begins to draw unto itself the people, situations and outcomes that match its frequency. This is not wishful thinking. This is the law by which reality responds to you. The world bends not to what you want, but to what you are. And what you are is what you've accepted within. So the question is no longer, what do I want? The question becomes, what am I assuming right now? Because assumption is prayer. Assumption is prophecy. You do not beg the mirror to change. You assume the image and the mirror follows. The world has no choice but to rearrange itself in alignment with your dominant inner state. Even your challenges become shaped by the story you hold about them. Nothing escapes the law of assumption because nothing escapes the power of imagination. You hold this mirror in your hands every moment of your life. If you use it unconsciously, it reflects confusion. If you use it deliberately, it reflects mastery. So begin now, not later, to watch the inner narrative you repeat. Speak from the state you desire. Think from the version of you that already has. When you do this, the mirror must comply. It has no power of its own. It only returns what you give it. And if your imagination is God, then assumption is creation. Dare to assume with clarity and watch how the world begins to recognize you, not as who you were, but as who you've become. If assumption is the seed of reality, then hunger is the soil. Desire is not weakness, it is a divine signal, a call from the deeper self to expand, to express more fully. But here's the truth most overlook. Your hunger is not meant to torment you. It's meant to guide you. What you long for is not a random craving. It is evidence of the life your imagination is already capable of creating. Every true desire is a whisper from the God within, saying, "This is possible for you." But desire without direction becomes suffering. When you don't understand the role of imagination, you interpret hunger as lack instead of guidance. You dwell on what's missing and unknowingly create more of it. But when you begin to walk in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, something changes. A quiet shift occurs. The hunger becomes fuel instead of pain. It sharpens your vision, focuses your attention, and begins to draw life toward you through what Scripture calls the bridge of incidents. This bridge is not a straight path. It rarely appears logical or planned, but it is perfect. Imagination doesn't need to know how. It simply sets the end, and life begins assembling the middle. Events, people, coincidences, all begin to arrange themselves in alignment with the vision you've claimed. But most people abandon the process too soon. They plant a seed, then doubt. They ask, then contradict it with fear. Imagination responds to consistency. It obeys faith. It brings to life whatever you persist in, not what you occasionally touch. The bridge may look like chaos at first. Don't mistake movement for failure. The world is reorganizing itself around your inner command. Stay faithful to your vision. Walk as if it's already done. Speak from it, not toward it. Feel it now, not later. You are not waiting for life to deliver. It is already in motion. The only delay is the time it takes you to believe. The longer you stand in indecision, the longer the bridge takes to build. Your imagination is not waiting for signs. It is the source of them. Stop questioning the desire. Start answering it. Hunger is holy when it leads you inward, when it invites you to assume the end and live from it. This is not about force or struggle. It's about surrendering to the truth that what you seek is already alive within you. The bridge to it is built by imagination alone, and every step across it is an act of faith in the God you carry, not above you, but within you. Once you understand that your imagination builds the bridge of life, a deeper truth emerges. With that creative power comes sacred responsibility. You are never not imagining. You are never not creating. Every idle thought, every silent assumption, every unnoticed feeling is a command sent into the invisible, one that must return in form. Whether you realize it or not, your imagination is always at work, shaping the conditions of your life with precision. And that truth is not meant to burden you, it's meant to free you. To recognize imagination as God is to realize that you are never a victim of circumstance. You are the source of it, not in blame, but in authorship. The stories you repeat, the roles you accept, the identities you refuse to let go of, all of them gather power through repetition. And imagination, being God, accepts your choice without argument. It does not scold or correct, it simply gives. If you imagine limitation, it becomes real. If you imagine freedom, it also becomes real. The sacredness lies in your ability to choose. And yet, most people give away this responsibility. They would rather be ruled by doubt than stand in their creative authority. They treat imagination like a fleeting thought rather than a divine force. But the moment you stop and see clearly, when you really grasp that every vision you hold is a seed that will grow, your relationship with life changes. You no longer speak carelessly. You no longer allow fear to sit in your chest unchallenged. You become intentional, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You are not here to control every outcome, but you are here to guide the direction of your inner world. That is your power. That is your offering. To honor imagination is to honor God, and to ignore it is to deny your very purpose for being. You were not made to drift. You were made to shape, to form, to speak into the silence and watch it echo. And when you truly embrace this, you stop asking, "Why isn't it happening?" And you start asking, "What am I creating now?" In conclusion, you were never powerless. You were simply unaware. Your imagination has always been God in disguise, quietly waiting for you to see, to feel, to know. Not as an idea, but as reality. You are the dreamer, and the moment you awaken, the dream changes. So use it. Use it boldly, faithfully, deliberately. Or stay powerless, not because life holds you back, but because you never claimed the throne within. Your imagination is God. Use it, or drift through a life shaped by unconscious thought. But once you know, there are no excuses, only creation.